Alright guys, hello and welcome to week 6. We're going to be in Monaco. We had a rough time in practice with the rain on 2 of our practice sessions. So we're going to see what we can do for qualifying and see how far up the grid we can get. That's what I'm talking about. Very narrow track, not a lot of room to hit the brakes. Cutting that corner a little bit too much. A little late on the brakes there. Monaco hairpin. We're coming into the tunnel here. Be a hard left here out of the tunnel. Very hard corners here. And that corner's not going to help our time. Gasly passes up on a qualifying lap. We get knocked down to 7th here. Alright, we'll see you when we're back on the track for another run at the end of this qualifying session. Alright, we are on the back end of the track for our second attempt in first qual. Got a little bit of damage there on the back end. Gonna try to stay there in the positive. Went up in the hairpin.
Okay, there's 2 minutes left in this session, and we're in the drop zone. We need a quick.
And if we cannot work on that negative, we will not be looking at a great race here as we go into the cutoff there. Damage on the front wing. That's going to be P22 on the grid for this qualifying for Monaco. Like I said before, Monaco is a very narrow and very difficult track. So we're going to go ahead and take P22 with a grain of salt. And with that, we'll see you guys on the track. Alright. We have a big race ahead of us. And with that, wreck at the end of qualifying, we retire, and we're going to be starting at the back of the grid, week 6 in Monaco.
Nelson Piquet once said that driving the Circuit de Monaco was like riding a bicycle around your living room. And it's not hard to see what he means by that. There's no more prestigious a Grand Prix victory than Monaco, but also none so challenging. The astonishing Circuit de Monaco is, for all intents and purposes, virtually unchanged since its inaugural race back in 1929. The faster cars of today, though, ensure the 19 corners past the casino and along the seafront remain as thrilling as ever. A 2.1-mile lap here takes us around an entire country, yet never more than inches from the race-ending barriers. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about Mercedes. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position. And it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Leclerc, Lando Norris, and Fernando Alonso. Ricciardo, Verstappen, Perez, and Lance Stroll. Ocon, Gasly, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Tsunoda. Schwartzman, Mick Schumacher, Luca Giotto, and George Russell. Aitken, Mazepin, Johnson, and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
All right, so we've made it to the track. Carlos Sainz starting in first. We are starting on the opposite end of the grid in 21st. A very rough practice and qualifying that just completely proves that Monaco is very difficult. But coming up to this first corner, we take our time, see what people want to do for their first lap. It's going to be single file almost all the way. And then after the first lap, we're going to start spacing out. So the best thing we can hope for is good position changes on our racing strategy. So we're going to get that racing strategy going and knock out the formation lap, and we'll see you guys on the track. All right, we are here, wrapped up with the formation lap. At this point, I'm just hoping for a decent fighting positions as we're starting the race. Go for the 5 red lights and we're off. Going along this first stretch of road here, we managed to gain, I believe, 2 positions there against George Russell and Nikita Mazepin. Still at the back of the grid. We ended up getting set back 1 position against George Russell. He had a better turn on there. And having to be careful about the single file here with how tight-knit the track is. But going up to Carlos Sainz, sitting in a comfortable first place, coming around and going into the Monaco tunnel there. Still fighting George Russell for that position. And we're still going to be sitting back behind him in 20th place here. Coming up to the hard left hairpin, got to brake pretty hard. I almost go outside wide there for the first lap. But it's basically about getting our footing on the first lap here, and I knew my car had a lot of trouble, even with the tweaks that I made for this track, as we skimmed the wall there a little bit, kind of up to the last hard right-hander for the end of the first lap here. Going to be a gain of 1 position since the start. Coming back to Carlos Sainz, still sitting in the comfortable first place, about a second and 2/10 ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Doing really well, coming up to the hairpin there. As not really many position changes have changed ever since the beginning of the race in that first right-hander. A very dangerous corner there, because one wrong move you can go right into the wall here, especially cutting the corners here on this left-hander. We'll be moving on to lap 3. Managed to take a position against George Russell right before the hairpin, and that was going to be our plan of attack, is get close enough to the person in front of us, brake late on that turn, that way we can take the hairpin ahead of them. So gain up above position of George Russell into 19th now. Be behind Jack Aitken in the Haas. Cut short a little bit so we don't cut those corners. And after this turn, we end up almost skimming the wall, which we do end up doing that later. But like I said before, a very difficult track. And we ended up almost having to brake a lot harder than we did there on that corner with how fast it comes up. Gonna DRS with Jack Aitken not too far behind us. Still fighting or Jack Aiken in front of us, I apologize. That was George Russell behind us. And this wide turn here, very careful not to get up against the wall there. But we do the same move on Jack Aiken that we did George Russell. We brake late and come into the hairpin with another position taken. A little bit of contact behind Luca Giotto. And as we're coming up to the tunnel, I tried to stay as close as possible to Luca here, but didn't turn out though. Lap 5, coming up to the hairpin, still behind Luca. Not very close enough to try and pass him there, but we tried. As we're coming up on him on that turn. I had to be very careful about how close I was on this braking zone here, that way I didn't ram into the back of him. End up going over the curb there, you don't see it though. But lap 5 out of 39, knowing how fast and narrow this track is, going to be a very long race. Trying to stay behind Luca as best as possible, but he still has a 3-second gap between himself and Mick Schumacher, and we're just below 1 second difference, so we were able to activate our DRS with no effect, but Jack Aiken was able to get a little bit closer to us. Go over the curb there a little bit too much. Coming up the hill here, and we brake off to the side a little bit more than we expected because we didn't let off the gas a little bit earlier than we should have. And coming up to the hairpin, not being able to take position from Luca, but we do end up coming in contact with his rear tires, which is not really good with the damage on the front end. Coming through the tunnel here. And the hairpin's going to be the same issue, is making sure we brake early enough for it. Moving on to lap 8. Still going to be behind Luca, about 5 seconds now. We had some issues hitting the walls here and there, but so I know at this point that we have a little bit of damage on our vehicle. We end up taking this turn a little wide. George Russell tries to go for the pass, but he ends up not doing so. And at this point, George Russell comes up to my side. I'm trying to fight for the position, and we end up coming in contact with that wall there and himself. Extensive damage to the vehicle. Was pushed up against the wall, came in contact, turned the wheel too much, and we ended up going into the wall, losing our tire, which causes us to retire from the race, getting 0 points. So let's go ahead and go to the podium and see what happens.
It's the one that everyone wants to win, and they've only gone and done it. What a fantastic result here at Monaco. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
A show-stopping performance from the 3 drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
All right, as you can see, is Carlos Sainz for the win of Monaco. This track definitely giving us a beating. It was very rough.
It wasn't the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Nicholas Latifi gets my vote today.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today, as they make their way up the standings. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.